So, good morning. First year Bcom Computer Applications and first year BA Computer Applications, FIT, Introduction to Computers, Classification of Computers, Applications, Generations of Computers and Number Systems, Number Conversions, Logic Gates, ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఒకసారి డిస్కస్ చేసుకుందాము. సో మనకి అగైన్ we covered with computer organization, memory units, input devices, output devices. Unit 3 is introduction to computers, operating systems, like that. ఇవన్నీ కూడా మనకి ఆల్రెడీ కొన్ని కవర్ అయ్యాయి. ఇందులో మనం టుడే we will discuss about generations of computers. What are the different types of generations are available? What are the different types of generations of computers and which technologies are used, means which hardwares and which software components and which processors, memories of these technologies or these generations are used, or we will discuss here. So generations are mainly 5 types. Computer generations are 5 types. First one is first generation computers 1946 to 1959. So generations of computers, there are 5 generations of computers are there. First generation 1946 to 59, second generation 1957 to 64, third generation 1965 to 70, fourth generation 1970 to 1990, and fifth generation 1992 till date. So in introduction to computers, what is different categories of devices or different categories of electrical, electronic, mechanical devices invented in these generations. So generation 0 means mechanical calculators. Generation 1, in generation 1 vacuum tubes are introduced. All these are electrical, electronic components. All these are electrical, electronic and electronic components. In generation 1 vacuum tubes are introduced. In generation 2 transistors are introduced. In generation 3 ICs, IC means integrated circuits, IC means integrated circuits are introduced. Generation 4 microprocessors are introduced. So these are the, so in first generation computers vacuum tubes are introduced, and in second generation computers transistors are used, and in third generation computers integrated circuits ICs are used. In fourth generation computers microcomputers are used, microprocessors are used. So these are the different types of technologies and features in all the 5 generations. So generally in first generations vacuum tubes are used. The size is generally it occupies more than a building. Computers can occupy more than a building. And in second generations transistors are used as an electronic device. It occupies half of the room. And in third generations ICs, integrated circuit. What is an IC? IC is a collection of multiple transistors placed in a single chip. What is IC? Integrated circuit. IC means it is a collection of a group of transistors which are interconnected with each other and placed on a single chip. It is called as an IC. And from third generation computers the size of a computer is gradually reduced and it is small or smaller in size. In fourth generation computers microchip or microprocessors, or processors are used. What is a microchip? Means microchip is nothing but collection of millions of transistors, interconnected with each other. It is called as and placed on a silicon chip. It is called as a transistor or a microprocessor. So they are in from fourth generation computers. The size of the computer is gradually reduced, teeny size, and more powerful, curtain is more powerful, and like that. So introduction to computers, these are the different parts of the computer. So the first generation computer is called as ENIAC. ENIAC means ENIAC. What is ENIAC? ENIAC means electronic numerical integrated and computer. Electronic numerical and integrated computer was unveiled in 1946, the first all electronic general purpose digital computer. So this is the chip. In this diagram it places different diagrams of first generation computers and chips and transistors used. The use of binary means binary language or binary number system was introduced in that time. That is in the first generation computers. Generally, binary arithmetics and binary logic are done in this by using electronic circuits. So the first general purpose computer is invented by von Neumann. So this is the diagram of a basic computer or a working of a first generation computer diagram is like this. So CPU, memory, and IO systems, these two are interconnected with each to directly with CPU. So generation 2. In generation 2, IBM 7094 computers are introduced. These are the pictures of this time. The generation 3 ICs. Generation 3 computers are called as in generation 3 ICs are integrated circuits are used, and generally they are very introduced by some MNC company. And generation 4 we may use VLSI technologies. What is VLSI? Very large scale integrated circuits. Very large scale integrated circuits are used. So in generation 4, improvements to IC technology made it possible to integrate more and more transistors in a single chip. So VLSI is nothing but very large scale integrated circuit. It is a collection of millions of chips, millions of transistors into a single chip. There are different types like SSI, MSI, LSI. LSI means large scale integration, MSI means medium scale integration, like that. So generation 5 means which is starting from 1952 till date. This is presently we are in generation 5. So generation 5 is used is sometimes referred to all or more less than sci-fi future developments. So various technologies are introduced in generation 5 like voice recognition, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biocomputing, nanotechnologies, learning technologies, and natural languages. All these technologies are introduced and used in generation 5. Presently we are in generation 5 with various improvements in the technologies like processors, memory, speed of a computer. All these are gradually increased to rapidly increased. So we may start with another slide or PPT. So all these fundamental things we have already covered. Computer functions of a computer, applications of computers. So generations and descriptions. So in the first generation, the period of first generation is from 1946 to 59. Vacuum tubes based technology is used. The second generations, that is from 1959 to 65, transistor based technologies are introduced. Third generation 65 to 71, ICs, integrated circuits are used. Fourth generation 1971 to 80, VLSA microprocessors or based technologies are used. VLSA means very large scale integrated circuits. Very large scale integrated circuits based microprocessors are used. The fifth generation VLSA means ultra large scale microprocessors are used. So we start with the first generation and we discuss all the things, features, applications, advantages, disadvantages, like that. Technologies, electronic circuits, programming languages introduced, all these things we may discuss here. The period of first generation was 46 to 59. So generally vacuum tubes are the basic components for memory and circuits for CPU, central processing unit. These tubes, like electronic tubes, produced a lot of heat and the installations used to fuse frequently. So vacuum tubes, mainly vacuum tubes are introduced as the main electronic component for CPU, central processing unit, memories and other technologies. And in this generation mainly batch processing operating systems are used. So in first generation computers, batch processing operating systems are used by and in the hardware part, punch cards and paper tape, magnetic tapes are introduced as in input output devices. Generally machine language is used. Machine language or a binary language is used as a programming language. So in the first generation computers, vacuum tubes are used as a main electronic component for CPU, memory and circuits. And input output punch cards and paper readers and magnetic tapes are mainly used for input output devices. Batch processing operating system is used. And a machine language or a binary language is used as a programming language in first generation. So what are the main features of first generation computers are? So vacuum tube technologies, unreliable and supported machine language only, and very costly, generates lot of heat, slow input and output device, huge size, need of AC, non-portable, consumes lot of electricity. Examples are ENIAC, EDVAC, UNIVAC, IBM 701, like that. So this is the first generation computer, picture of the first generation computer. So what are the features of first generation computers? Vacuum tubes are used. And only machine language is only available, no other programming languages, no other high level programming languages are used. Machine language is very tedious and very complex programming language, and they are very costly machines. First generation computers are very costly and generates lot of heat. Why? Because we are using thousands of vacuum tubes, lot of heat, so that we may require some AC machines or cooling machines, and very slow input output devices, and size is also very huge, so it occupies room and more than one room size. Not portable. Portable means it is not easy to move and it is not easy to install, like that. So similarly lot of electricity also required. So these are the first generation computers. So second generation computers. In the second generation computers, the second generation is from 1959 to 1965. Transistors are introduced. Transistors are replaced with vacuum tubes. Transistors are very cheap in cost and consumes less power, and these computers are compact in size and faster compared to first generation computers, and vacuum tubes are generally used. So in these generations, that is in second generation computers, magnetic cores were used as the primary memory, and magnetic tape and magnetic disks are secondary storage. So magnetic cores were introduced, and magnetic tapes and magnetic disks are used as an input output devices. and in these generations assembly language is used as a high level programming. Assembly language in the first generation we may use this machine language or binary languages are used, whereas in second generation computers assembly languages are used, and other programming high level programming languages are also introduced, like Fortran, COBOL, all these are used introduced. These computers uses batch processing and multi programming operating systems. So what are the features and applications of second generations? So use of transistors are introduced, means instead of vacuum tubes, transistors are cheap, tiny and faster, and small. The size of the computer is also reduced, smaller as compared to the first generation computers, and generates less heat as compared to first generation computers. Also they generate very less heat compared to first generation computers, and less consumes less electricity, means compared with first generation computers. Faster than first generation computers, it means they are little bit faster in execution or processing compared with the first generation computers, but still they are very costly. AC is also required, and supported machine and assembly languages and other programming languages are also introduced. Examples are IBM 1620, IBM UNIT-1 and others. So this is the second generation computer. Third generation computers. So the third generation computers period was 1965 to 71. In third generation computers we may use ICs. What is IC? IC means integrated circuits. IC means integrated circuits. It is also one type of chip. It is a collection of some transistors placed in one place instead of using transistors. Single IC may have many transistors, resistors and capacitors along with the associated circuit. So a single IC means integrated circuit, may contain many number of transistors. So in this generation, remote processing, time sharing, multi-programming operating systems are used. High-level programming languages like Fortran, COBOL, Pascal, BASIC, Algol are used. So what are the main features of third generation computers? ICC are used, means integrated circuits, smaller in size, less heat, generates less heat, and faster in processing or speed. Maintenance is also lesser, less costly. AC also required. Consumed lesser electricity, means compared to second and first generation, it consumed very less electricity. Supported high level languages, means as we already discussed, basic, COBOL, Fortran all are introduced. Example is IBM 360 series, Honeywell, like that. So this is the third generation computer. Fourth generation computers. So in fourth generation computers, the period of fourth generation is from 1971 to 80. Fourth generation computers uses VLSI technologies. VLSI circuits or technology. VLSI means very large scale integrated circuit. It is also one type of IC, but more number of transistors are used. VLSI, very large scale integrated circuits, having about 5,000 transistors and other circuit elements. In that, microcomputers are introduced in fourth generation computers. So microcomputers are, VLSI is a single chip which contains more than 5,000 transistors are placed on it. Microcomputers are introduced in this generation, and generally these fourth generation computers are more reliable, compact compared to other generations, and they are also called as PCs, personal computers. They are used the first time they introduced the term PC, a personal computer. In this time only, time sharing, real time networks, distributed operating systems are introduced. All the high level languages like C, C++, DBS were used in this generation. All these are comes under fourth generation. So what are fourth generation computers? The main features of fourth generation VLSI technologies. What is VLSI? In fourth generation computers they may introduce VLSI technologies. VLSI is nothing but it is very large scale integrated circuits. It is also a chip which contains 5,000 more than 5,000 transistors are used. Very cheap, portable, reliable. They are also called as PCs. Introduction of PCs are a personal computer and very small in size, and no ACs are required. Internet was introduced in that time only. Internet was introduced in the time only, and networking is also introduced in the time only, and very easily available. They buy because they are very cheaper in cost. Examples are DEC 10 like that. So fifth generation computers. So what are fifth generation computers? And the fifth period of fifth generation computer is 1982 till date. So in fifth generation computers, VLSI technology become ULSI, ultra large scale integration technology, resulting in the production of microprocessor chips having 10 million electronic components. This generation is based on a parallel processing hardware and AI, artificial intelligence software. AI is an emerging branch in computer science which interprets the means and method of making computers think like human beings. All the high level languages like C and C++, Java, .NET and are used in these generations. So this is the picture of a fifth generation computer. So what are the main features of fifth generation computers? VLSI technologies are used, artificial intelligence technologies are introduced, neural networks are used, parallel processings are used, superconductor technologies are used, and multimedia features are also available. Very powerful computers, compact computers with cheaper rates. So very powerful, compact and cheaper rates. Examples are desktops, laptops, notepad, ultrabook, chromebook like that. Thank you.